Hello, smart sidekicks. Captain Create here. What food group do you think is most eaten by people all over the world? Do you think it's fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, or dairy? Certainly people eat different amounts of food from each food group, but many of the world's most eaten foods are from the grains food group. But not all grains are created equal, and I'm not just saying something like rice is different from oats. Instead, what I'm saying is there are 4 different ways that grains are prepared that affect the amount of nutrients they have. These 4 types are whole, refined, enriched, and fortified. Now let's see if you can guess which of these types of grains has the most amount of nutrients. Listen closely and make your guess at the end. Whole grains have the entire grain kernel with all 3 parts: the outside layer called the bran, the inside filling called the endosperm, and the tiny part that can grow into a new plant called the germ, not to be confused with a bad kind of germ. Each part has important nutrients that you can't replace. You can remember a whole grain because the O in whole can represent a circle with no missing parts, like a whole pizza or a whole pie. A refined grain is a grain that has had some parts removed, like the bran and germ. The word refined has the word fine in it, like you're walking a fine line. Have you ever heard that before? Well, here, fine means thin, just like a refined grain has thinner nutrients. An enriched grain is also a refined grain, so it only has the endosperm too. But some nutrients that were lost in the bran and germ have been added back in. One way to remember this is the word enriched has the word rich in it. An enriched grain is a refined grain that's a little richer in nutrients. A fortified grain is another type of refined grain, so just the endosperm again, but these grains have been built up with extra nutrients that weren't there before. One way to remember fortified grains is the word fort. These grains are built up like you build a fort. So, which type of grain do you think has the most amount of nutrients? Is it whole, refined, enriched, or fortified? It can be a bit tricky, but if you're thinking whole grains, you're right. Fortified, enriched, and refined grains still provide a lot of important nutrients, but remember, they are all missing the bran and the germ. Because whole grains are so nutritious, it's important to
make half your grains whole grains.
That means instead of eating only refined breads and snacks, try to switch to more whole grain options at least half of the time.
How do you know something's a whole grain?
Great question. You might think you can tell just by looking, and sometimes the fronts of packages will even have words like wheat, whole, or made with whole grain, but that doesn't always work. So the best way is to read the ingredients list.
One of the first ingredients on the list should say whole, like whole wheat or whole wheat flour. Sometimes it'll just say the grain itself, like brown rice, oats, or popcorn. Who knew that grains could be so complex? Now that you know about all the different types of grains, make sure you make half your grains whole grains. Check out the links below for more information, and don't forget to subscribe to Captain Create.